I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go. Welcome. We are on verdict watch for the Meggan Sundwell case. And I might have misspoke. So it sounds like the judge wanted the jury to have the case by today, but I think he's going to give them as much time as they need to deliberate. But I don't know if they have them until Friday. I don't know. This case comes out of Utah. And for anybody that is brand new to this case, this is my fourth video covering this case. And so please make sure to go out and check video 1, video 2. There's a really thorough overview and background. The details of this case are troubling, and there is not a perfect victim. And some people might feel sorry for the defendant. Some people might really think that the victim in this case manipulated her, all of those things. I truly think that the psychologist that the defense called, to me, that psychologist made me feel sorry for Casey, the victim in this case. Because to me, the psychologist's testimony talked about her emotional vulnerability and how she would do or say almost anything to keep a relationship. And he's the one that mentioned para, I can't say the word here. Um, so they did get the case yesterday. Today is day 2. I will go on ahead and just give a brief overview of this case. Please be sure to check out the description as well. This case is Meggan Sundwall. We are still in verdict watch, and I have it playing in the background. Yes, okay, I gotta click live again. And I'll take it off mute. There we go. So I am watching to see if there are any updates. Utah, so I'm on East Coast time. And so I think I'm a few hours ahead. And we will see when the jury is released. There was a lot of evidence in this case that the state did not play. So the judge did put them on a timeline of like, hey, I want this case to the jury no later than Tuesday. That was my understanding. And because of that, the state did not play a lot of the interviews because Meggan Sundwall, I think she gave 3 interviews that the jury will have to review. And then there's other information. There's all of those text messages that were entered by the state. It's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of text messages between Meggan and Casey. And so here's my overview. Meggan Sundwall is a former nurse. She might still have a nursing license. I think her nursing license is just on pause right now because of these charges. But she's charged with unaliving her friend, Casey Terry. Now, Casey had been lying to her family and Meggan about having terminal cancer for about 10 years. And Casey has a really sad history. Her mother died when she was 3 years old. Her father died back in 2011. And I believe she was about 37 years old at the time of her death. And there's a lot of things that the state mentioned in closing that really resonated with me. There is an option, there is a lesser included that went to the jury. It's my understanding based on, so I watched the interview between Emily D. Baker and Peter from Lawyer You Know. And Emily D. Baker mentioned just how low the standard for red rum is in Utah. It's basically you cause the death of somebody else. You can be charged with them not being here anymore. Like I guess that other states have higher standards, but there is a lesser included of assisted, so I have to say self-delete. Okay? So that is the jury could find her guilty of assisting Casey's death. I think there is some evidence that proves that Casey really did not want to do this to herself, and she did not want to die. I think she wanted to get attention and support from Meggan. I think she wanted Meggan to think that there was this $1.5 million life insurance policy, but I think so Megan was in a difficult financial situation, and she was telling Casey that she could barely afford her groceries. She didn't know what was going to happen, and she's asking her like, "Hey, when are you going to do this plan? Like what's," and there were times when Casey would say, "I wish I could just die and you could inherit the money." But there was no money. And so on August 12th, 2024, about 3 weeks after Casey had just had knee replacement surgery, I think she told Megan, at least Megan's parents thought that Casey had broken her leg, but she had actually had knee replacement surgery. I will note for anybody that's new to this case, Casey never told her doctors that she had terminal cancer. She only told friends and family. She did have a port. So I've worked with cancer, with individuals receiving cancer treatment that have a port where they're able to more easily receive their chemo drugs. I also have their chemo medication, what they need. I also have a family member that has very severe kidney issues and gets dialysis three times a week, and they have a port as well that they have to keep clean. They have all of these requirements for their port, and so Casey had a port, and uh, she would have IV fluids because I think she was at risk for, I don't know if it was like dehydration or I don't know, but for some reason she would, to keep her healthy, she would use that port to administer that type of medication. This case is extremely sad. It's extremely complex, and I am not surprised that the jury is taking so long. Thank you, Noni Ann. She only had one kidney. So she was born with only one kidney. They found that out because of a medical complication that happened after her birth. And when they went to look at everything, they realized that she only had one kidney. And so she had this history of getting attention and support for medical things starting very early. I have past videos where I talked about factitious disorder, and the forensic psychologist did mention that condition. And I will also tell you a lot of the signs and symptoms that the forensic psychologist talked about that Casey may have been displaying this pattern of behavior. It lined up with a possible borderline personality disorder diagnosis. He talked about the pattern and symptoms in an extremely compassionate way to me. I think the defense attorney was trying to make Casey to be this controlling, manipulative person because in closing arguments, the state is the one that talks about that the jury needs to think about who was in control, who was causing what happened to Casey. And the state believes it was 100% Meggan. I think it's a little complicated because so the night before, so on August 11th, Casey is researching on her phone, can like something to the effect of like, can you inject yourself? Like, is it dangerous to inject yourself with saline? And so I personally believe that Casey filled a few of her syringes with saline and made Meggan think that it was insulin. And that's where the state believes that Meggan was catching on to Casey's lies because Casey had told Meggan that she had taken 9 vials of insulin and she had taken all these things. She needed this special surgery that her hospice doctors, which were not true as well, that her hospice doctors and her hospice nurses that she needed a special surgery so that she could process medication quicker and she could die. I don't think Casey really wanted to die. Now, this will be up to the jury. This will really, really be up to the jury. Um, Some people with factitious disorder don't have any medical conditions. It is common for somebody in the family to have had serious medical conditions because so Casey's uncle died in January from complications with diabetes. Her uncle now his the uncle that testified in court, his type 1 diabetes was well managed. She had a grandmother, I thought they mentioned that the grandmother had dementia and also had diabetes, and the defense wants to make it sound like, and it could be true, that Casey did want to not be here anymore because her family was gonna find out that she had been stealing money. And I'm talking about stealing over like $60,000. So not like stealing a little bit of money, but stealing that she had been stealing a lot of money. Um, but the state made it sound like Meggan was the one that was in control. The state admitted Casey lied. Casey exaggerated her illnesses. She misused medications. So she would trade her opioids for benzos, and the state said she was flawed and hurting. She had real medical issues, that one kidney, lost her mother and father. Much of her dishonest behavior centered around connection, attention, and care. And the person that gave the closing argument for the state really encouraged the jury to understand Casey's vulnerability. She had not told her family the same lies that she told Meggan. So Casey told Meggan that she was thinking about harming herself and that she didn't want to be here anymore. She never mentioned any of those things to anybody else except Meggan. And when she told, so to me, a red flag, just for me personally, when Casey told Meggan that she was, you know, not really wanting to be here anymore, that she just wanted to die, Meggan would make statements like, "Yeah, there really isn't much left for you here." And it had been years. It had been years of Casey saying she was terminal, Casey saying that she wanted to die. And then on August 12th, Meggan is there, and we have the chart of the insulin. So I will share this chart again. I will share the chart of the insulin because the state acknowledges that the very first insulin prick happened before. So the first glucose check, Casey did that before Meggan got there. All right. And so around, I think it was like 9:18, because Casey gets there. Sorry, Meggan. Oh gosh. So Casey did her own glucose check around 9 a.m. And then Meggan gets there around 10 a.m. And there is a little drop. They're not sure if that type of drop happened just naturally, because sometimes there can be natural changes in blood sugar. But the forensic expert, they did say around 12:30 is when the forensic expert thinks that the endocrinologist believes that Casey received a large dose of short acting insulin, possibly received a long acting as well, but she believes that she received a very high dose around 12:30. And there is this big drop. And after 2 o'clock, we're really after, it's like 1:45 or so, there's no way that Casey is doing these glucose checks on her own. I do not know if the jury is going to hold it against Meggan that Meggan was a nurse. And the defense really fought for there to be an instruction that Meggan had no duty of care. But the no duty of care really applied more to um, so I am certified in CPR, but if I arrive on an accident and somebody needs CPR, I can't be like held responsible for not providing care, and I am CPR approved. And so yes, because I am a psychologist, I think I mentioned this before. If I'm on a bus and somebody is having a mental crisis, like they that is not my client. And sometimes it might be inappropriate for me to try to intervene in a situation where that is not my client. Now, I could call for if the person needed emergency assistance, I could potentially call for any of that, but I couldn't be sued because somebody was in a crisis that was not my client. And Casey was not Megan's client. And so, like, this case just gets very, very complicated and complex. The state during their closing, they talked about that, yes, Casey did have a history of shopping for doctors to receive opioids. Um, but it was proven by the medical examiner that the drugs and the other things in Casey's system did not cause her death and did not interact with insulin. That it was insulin is what caused pretty much her brain death and for her to die. That's my paraphrasing of what was said. The state described Casey as messy, complicated, that she had flaws, but that does not equal somebody not wanting to be here anymore. The state also said vulnerability does not let someone else take control of your life. And the state talked about the fact that Casey was making plans to continue to advance at work. She wanted her own apartment. She had a second knee surgery that she was planning on scheduling in the future, and that she had expressed a fear of getting pills that were laced with fent. And she also had this fear of like dying in her own fluids. Um, and it does sound like the last moments. So before Casey received medical attention, those last moments just sound like it was, um, it's something that you can't unhear when they talk about that death rattle. I've never heard somebody in that position or in that situation. I think on the TV show The Pit, I think they did have somebody in their last moments, that did have that kind of sound, but uh, the state also tried to minimize the fact that they don't believe that Casey took any decisive action, that she was instead para-suicidal and not thinking about actually that this was an act to get Megan's attention and to get Megan's support, but that she didn't actually want to not be here anymore. And the signs that the state used was the fact that Casey had searched for the saline. And a lot of people have asked where was the insulin kept. And based on the uncle's testimony, it sounds like because it was a house that had three diabetics, one of which had passed, but they still had his old insulin as well. That there was insulin at different places in the house, including in the basement. And if correct me if I'm wrong, I thought they said in the refrigerator where there were Coca-Colas that there was insulin right in there. Um, yes. You mentioned that she wanted attention, but that she didn't really want death. Closing arguments happened yesterday. So closing arguments, the jury deliberated for I think about over 3 hours yesterday, according to what I've seen in chat. Okay. And they continue to deliberate all of today. All right. I don't know that they're going to come to anything today. It is a complicated case. And I would, because they all have to come to an agreement. And I think the jury is going to take their time. They're probably going to start at the top of say, do we think this was intentional? Do we think, or negligent? Do we think, because the state cannot put the insulin vial in Megan's hands. The state believes that Meggan wore gloves and that's why her fingerprints aren't found on the insulin. I don't know. But like, so that's the state's theory. Meggan instead would say that she did nothing. But I think she did continue to monitor her blood sugar and that it was dropped. But she's not going to admit that she did anything. Meggan did not testify in this case. Thank you for this question. I am following the case out of Hawaii. So the hiker, the husband and wife, where the husband attacked the wife and she survived. I will be talking with Josh Ritter about that case and this case tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern. I have the link over on the community tab. I made a post because it will be over on Courtroom Confidential. I'll be doing that tomorrow. I am following. I ended up getting distracted because Emily D. Baker had food court, and I need to finish her video talking about Afroman. And but I am also listening to the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case, and depending on how her testimony goes, I just have to decide because issues around postpartum, and I'm just really interested to see because this is a bench trial versus a jury trial. So I may do either a short or an entire video talking about that one. But those are some of the cases that I'm following. I will be following Courtney Clenny when that one comes up. And any other big cases? I think those are most of them. Yes. Too many good trials right now. So the one in Hawaii starts late. So that one doesn't start until 3 p.m. Kelsey Fitzsimmons started at like 8:30, but I don't think they started until like 9:30. So I think this will start at 9, but it started at like 9:30. Trial Live TV is a great channel to watch along with. He reminds me of the type of coverage that because he does summaries of what's been covered during breaks. He helps break things down and answers questions. So I've had a lot of fun there. Yes. So I was also watching Food Court. Okay. So I had clients from 3 to 6. So I had clients, and then I'm gonna go back. Lemon Pound Cake, that's not his name. Officer Sean Cooley is on the stand on Food Court. But I am I'm watching that today. The verdict, so the motive of money, the possible, and also the fact. So the state played the phone call where Meggan, I don't know if it was about a week after Casey died, but it was a certain amount of time after Casey died. Meggan called, I guess it's John Hancock is an insurance company. She called that insurance company with what she believed was a policy number. And I think she did know. I forget if she knew the last 4 of Casey's social, but Meggan called to confirm if there was a policy, and there was no policy. No policy. Yeah, so that's why we're calling it Food Court, because of the lemon pound cake. The lemon pound cake, mama's lemon pound cake. Those officers should have never filed that case. We're gonna take a detour. Okay, we're gonna squirrel out for a minute. I have a little squirrel from Up. If you can see him, he's in front of the Up dog. I have a little squirrel there. That Afroman case, and Emily D. Baker did mention the Barbara Streisand effect, and how if they had never brought this trial, these videos would not have millions upon millions of views. Everybody, like, these videos are trending. Many of them have 6 million plus views. And the songs are kind of catchy. It reminds me of parody videos. So I'm old enough to remember Weird Al. Weird Al? Was it Weird Al? But he used to remake songs and make fun of things and do parody videos. Oh, like, it is. And then the way that the officers were on the stand. So, like, 400, where did the $400 go? So Afroman, if you're brand new to this, you know nothing what I'm talking about. I'm sorry. So Afroman was sued by multiple police officers after they executed a warrant on his house, and they broke his gate, they broke his door, they wouldn't pay for it. $400 of his money was missing. I don't know if anybody ate the lemon pound cake, but he didn't like the way the detective was looking at his mama's lemon pound cake, and he made hilarious videos about it. Now, some of them are crude, okay? Because I don't know. Y'all can let me know in the chat if EDB has gotten to like the one that he called, like he started attacking like sexuality, and they played that entire song for this lady, and I think she's up there crying. I think she's up there to show the effect that it's had on her, but, like, it's just it's the most. It's super, super silly. Yes, we all need some lemon pound cake. Yes, Weird Al Yankovic, exactly. And now the man's famous. I forgot. Because I was talking about it with my husband, and he was like, "Yeah, he did the Because I Got High video," and I was like, I didn't even remember. I didn't even remember. Okay, good. She skipped all of Lisa. I don't, because Lisa, because the language, the video, the pictures, like that one is, yeah, YouTube would not have liked that one at all. So, okay. Um, all right. So back to this case. I am I'm not surprised that the jury is taking a while. So the defense, I think, put on a very good defense. The defense pretty much believes that they presented to the jury, the state can't put the insulin in Megan's hands. There is no um, proof or no indication that so the they're theorizing that Casey did this to herself because in her messages, she had said that she was going to do this to herself. But there are also messages from Meggan where Meggan says, "Do you want me to give you some medication and you can be asleep when something to the effect of like when I give the medicine to you or something." That those aren't the exact words, but that's the gist of it. And she would never be able to be a nurse ever again because I bel I think the nursing board could go after her for unethical behavior because while the criminal court has a beyond a reasonable doubt, civil court has a much lower bar. If Megan somehow is found not guilty in criminal court, civil court she could be found liable in civil court. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't know that the family would want to invest because civil court, the family has to pay for that. And that could be expensive. I don't know that the family would want to do all of that. There is a lesser included of assisting somebody taking their own life. And I think there's clear evidence that she knew the plan. She continued to monitor the glucose level. She interfered with the police being called. That's what the state mentioned on their rebuttal. They mentioned the fact the DNR and do not resuscitate does not mean provide no care. And they had medical doctors that talked about that. And but I do think Megan had a really strong defense. I'm not surprised that she did not testify. I think if she had got on the stand, the state could have asked her questions. I don't know that her story would have held up on cross examination because the state would be able to ask her, "Were you the one that was taking the like she could come across not credible if she wanted to continue to say it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I didn't do it, despite there being a text message that Megan sent her mother around 1:30, right before 2 p.m., saying that Casey was asleep and she couldn't wake her up. And so that's when, based on the data and based on that message, I think that's when Casey likely slipped into a diet coma. We don't know that for sure, but that's what we're thinking. There's no way Casey could have done anything after 2 p.m. And that's where Megan or the jury could potentially think, what if that 12:30 dose? What if Casey did that to herself? But my question is, what if Meggan filled the syringe with insulin and Casey thought it was one of her pre-filled saline syringes, but it wasn't. So that's where I don't know. I don't I don't know. We also have to talk about the fact of, did Casey set Meggan up if she ever did die by Meggan's hands? Or, like, if she ever did die, Meggan was gonna look super suspicious because Casey had told her sister years before that, Casey had told her sister, Kylie, that Meggan was trying to kill her with insulin. So the family was already against Meggan. But I do think that Casey did continue a relationship with Meggan, but then she's telling Meggan that her family is horrible, and so the defense did a good job talking about splitting, how a person can tell one person one thing and another person another thing, and it's so bad that it stops these two people from communicating with one another. Um, and I think if Casey really was gonna do this, I would think she would have said goodbye to her family. She might have written something, I don't know, like, but, that's just me thinking. I don't, and the jury, because there's no evidence of any of that. But yeah. I do believe that her license will be terminated. She also had a history of, like, lying about, but the jury doesn't know that Meggan had a history of lying about her hours, because that's, she was fired from a position for that. Um, I saw in the comments people talking about Meggan's mother, and people have feelings about Meggan's mother, and to me, Meggan's mother came across very protective of her daughter, and she's probably upset that her daughter is even in this situation. She likely thinks her daughter was just trying to help her friend and is this positive person, because the mother tried to make it sound like the breathing Casey was doing was just like sleep apnea breathing, but Casey's stepfather, but sorry, not Casey. My, y'all know me in names. I'm sorry, Meggan's. So Meggan's mother. So I hope I said that right. Meggan's mother testified in court, and Meggan's stepfather, but he adopted her, and she, that's the man that she considers to be her father. I felt his testimony was a little bit more credible. To me, he just seemed to be talking about the fact and wasn't necessarily trying to protect his daughter one way or another. I felt like Meggan's mother's testimony came across a little bit more protective of her daughter, to me personally. That's how it came across to me. Okay. All right. Yes, she faked terminal cancer, not just, so the port. I thought the port was here. I don't know if it was in her arm. I don't know where it was. I know that she had a port. It had been infected multiple times. She had to, and she had medical supplies, like boxes of medical supplies because of her kidney issues. She had medical supplies delivered to the house on a regular basis. And so the family just thought that her chemo, that she was doing at home chemo. And she was a frequent flyer at the emergency room. Her primary care doctor testified. So Casey's primary care doctor talked about a lot of the ailments and things that Casey would claim. And to me, her primary care doctor made it seem like at times he was suspicious of the validity of some of her reports. And she was also actively seeking substances. She didn't talk about substances with Meggan. So she had these different worlds that did not interact. And so when the forensic psychologist called Casey like a social chameleon, that Casey just kind of adapted to whatever environment she was in. But was Meggan the friend that, like, was supportive of, if she, I don't, like, that's where I'm just like, I I don't know that Casey was in control of all of this. I don't know. Yes, you can live with one kidney with treatment, and she was. She was doing well. So they called her healthy. So she was healthy. She was not terminal in any way. Casey was not terminal. She told everybody that she was. And I don't know, so it could have been for sympathy. In a prior video, I talked about factitious disorder. And Megan was a nurse. And the state points out that Casey would send Megan vital signs that were dangerously low, like incompatible with life. And Megan never challenged her on it. Casey's ex-husband, whose name is also Casey. So Casey married Casey, but like Casey, the female victim, married male Casey. They married multiple times. He thought it might have been 3. He could only find proof of 2 times. They also divorced. However many times they got married, they also got divorced. But he talked about that when she told him she had terminal cancer, he did not believe her. She told everybody that she had leukemia. And so, yes, Meggan texted her mom right before 2 p.m. Correct. That she couldn't get her to wake up. Okay. Let me know if y'all have any other general questions about this case. The husband was hilarious. Okay. Casey's ex-husband. I don't know if he was helpful to the state, to the defense. He didn't remember a bunch of stuff. He was just super like, yeah, I don't know. Like he just seemed like a casual person. He also mentioned the fact one of the times, so the first time they got divorced was because he had to work in another state and he told her to get a boyfriend. And he was like, I was joking, but like, I don't know. Like it seemed like he'd be okay with it. It's like, hey, if you need some attention, just go ahead and find you somebody else. And they ended up getting divorced. And then the second time they got divorced, he took his son from a different relationship, I'm guessing, on a trip on their anniversary, like on him and Casey's anniversary. He forgot. But like they've been married multiple times. Like I don't know. I sometimes struggle to remember my anniversary, and I was only married one time. But the husband's testimony was absolutely hilarious. If you like short recaps of the case, JD Explains has phenomenal videos. They're just short recaps of different aspects of this case. He's also following a few other cases, and there are updates there as well. And so that is where the state, going back to Meggan not seeing the behavior, the state thinks that Meggan did know, and that's why she wanted to be there this day and to make sure that it happened. So what if at some point Casey pleaded to like help? I don't want to die. I don't know that Meggan would have stopped the plan. And at no point, and I don't know where Casey's phone was in the middle of all of this. Casey also told Meggan deleted their messages talking about insulin and talking about the death plan and all of that. She did not. She did not delete those messages. They were all there for the police to find. And when the police got there, so my issue is that when EMS get to the house, now Kylie, Casey's sister, told Meggan to get out. You're trying to kill my sister. She did. She told her to get out. But Meggan and her mother waited to watch EMS leave, but they never told them that Casey had very low blood sugar and that she had given herself insulin. Like nothing was ever told to anybody. Now the defense tried to say that was for religious reasons, that in the Mormon community, death by unaliving self, that is taboo. And so she was trying to protect the secret that she had with her friend, or was she trying to protect her behavior? I really like JD Explains video. JD Explains. He does these short, like 20-minute videos, and at the end, he always talks about doing something kind for people, over tipping your waitress. I really like his content, and one of the reasons why I shout out other content creators is I am thankful. Like, so when you're following cases, I don't know the legal side. So if you need the law side, go ask JD. 'Cause I don't know. And some of the bigger streamers aren't going to cover this case. This case doesn't get the Corey Richins views. And so like some other, and so I'm not saying that to knock things. I'm saying that this case isn't being covered by larger channels, and so, he has phenomenal information, and I really appreciated his videos. Um, yes, yes, yes. All right. So, difficult case. We still do not have a verdict. Let me go back to the watch. It looks like verdict watch is still going on according to I'm watching on it's the Utah, the one y'all know me in names. It's East Idaho News. That's where I've been watching. It looks like the jury is still out. I don't know if we'll get a verdict today. I wouldn't be surprised if this takes a few days. It's my understanding there are interviews, excuse me, that there are interviews to watch. There are also other charges and other things for the jury to consider. And I think they will first start with what do y'all think about this being intentional and this being, and then they'll get to, well, what about assisted self delete? What does everybody think? And then there's also a charge of obstruction of justice because Megan deleted a bunch of the incriminate, I don't know. She deleted messages. She deleted, and so after Casey died, because they can tell when they were deleted, I think, a bunch of messages ended up getting deleted when an investigation was opened. And so, yeah, yeah. So we'll see. Yeah, I like Nate Eaton. I think he's on vacation right now. It seemed like he was on a cruise. I could be wrong. I saw his interview with juror number 3, I believe. Yes, juror number 3 from the Corey Richins trial. Great interview. He does a really great job, I think, in his interviews. And so I'm gonna go feed myself, feed my kiddo. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Once again, tomorrow I will be live with Josh Ritter talking about this case and the case out of Hawaii as and my thoughts are with because I think Hawaii had some flooding. I think they're dealing with some issues there. And so my hearts go out to people that are there. And then Lisa's asking me about a case, 2 high school girls arrested. Um I haven't seen that one. Mm, I haven't seen that case, Lisa. I hope y'all have a good one. Be kind, don't do crimes, and I will see you all next